What's up, you guys? So this is the outfit you're going to be drafting the pattern for, and this is what I finally made out of it. So if you're interested in seeing how I did this from start to finish, then definitely keep on watching. Okay guys, so I'm gonna head to draft this behind the camera just so we not waste so much time, but I'm going to explain what we have here so you will not be confused. So the line you're seeing here is a shoulder line, and also this is where our measurement is going to start from. So from this place you're going to mark down to your bust point. So my own is 10 inches. Now from that same shoulder point again, you're still going to mark down to your under bust. For me is 13 inches. Then from that same shoulder point, you're still going to mark down to your waist measurement. So for me, it's 16 inches. Now let's move over to the neckline. The neckline, I measure 3 inches inwards and also 3 inches downwards. Then I now connect the two together to now form the neckline. Then you're going to divide your shoulder measurement into two. So mine was 15 inches. I divided the 15 inches into two, and then I ended up having 7.5 inches. So now read the line. That's what I have here. So from that point now, I'll now come down by 1 inch. So that 1 inch now, I'm now going to connect it back to my neckline. So now to find the shoulder slope or the armhole depth, sorry, I'm going to divide around my armhole, measure around my armhole, and then divide that by 2, and then mark it out there. Or you're going to divide your bust measurement into 6, and then add plus 1.5 inches. Then you're going to use that to mark it out there. Then just turn around your ruler and then draw the line outwards to have this chest line. So what you're going to do now is to measure our nipple to nipple measurement. So my own is 8 inches. 8 inches divided by 2 is what I'm doing now. So I'm just going to mark that out, and I'm going to bring in my ruler to draw the lines together. The next thing we are going to do is to find the midpoints at the armhole depth. So I'm going to fold my tape over like this, and then we are going to just mark out the midpoint of that. Just simple that way. Then once you just mark that out, you're going to be coming in by ½ inch inwards. So after that, the next thing we are going to do is to bring down our tape to the chest line, and then we are going to mark 1.5 inches inwards from the armhole depth. Now what we're going to do is to bring in the ruler and then connect from the shoulder point down to that first dot that we mark inwards, and then we are going to be connecting from here. You're going to create the curve down to the 1.5 inches mark that we made. So if you have your curve ruler, just go ahead and then make use of that. With the 1.5 inch that we marked in, it's really going to help people that don't have the ruler. That's really the essence of that. So right now, what we're going to do is to go ahead and then create the curve that is here. So we're going to be subtracting our under bust from our bust measurement. So my bust measurement is 36 inches. So I'm going to be subtracting 30 from 36 inches, and I'm going to be having 6 inches. Now I'm going to be dividing that 6 inches by 2, and I'll have 3 inches. So I'm going to be placing 1 inch towards the center front area and then 2 inches inwards like this. So we're going to mark that on the under bust and also on the waist point. The next thing is to bring in our ruler, and then we are going to connect these points together. Now once we are done doing this, we are going to be coming over to the center front. So on the center front, starting from the bust point, we are going to be going up by 5 inches. So this is where the top part is going to start from. Now I'm going to come over to my armhole depth here, and then I'm also going to be marking 5 inches upwards. Now after doing that, you're just going to use your ruler and then connect those two lines together. This will now serve as the top part. This is where our top part of the blouse is going to start from. The next thing we are going to do is to come over to the shoulder slope. Now on the shoulder slope, you're going to fold our tape into 2 to find the midpoint here. Now once you find the midpoint, you're going to connect the line from that point down to our nipple to nipple measurement line here. So after connecting that, we are going to come over to this line here. That is the chest line that we just drew. That's the beginning part of the blouse. And then we are going to mark 1 inch towards each side. Now we are going to be coming in with our ruler, and then we are going to be connecting those 1 inches dot we just marked down to the bust point. Now the next thing we are going to do now is to go ahead and then create the curve on the bust area. So from this point now, you're going to be marking a curve down to this point. So if you have your ruler, please do go ahead and then use your curve ruler to do this. If you're using a free hand, I would advise you use a pencil first, just in case if you make a mistake, you can always clean it. So just go ahead and then draw a line and then connect this curve here. And then also draw a line and also connect this other part to this other line here. So now that we are done with that part, the next thing to do is to divide our horizontal measurements by 4 and then mark them out. So my bust measurements, I'm going to be dividing that by 4 and I'm going to be marking that out here. So go ahead and do the same thing for yours. And also on my under bust, I'm also going to be dividing it by 4 and I'll also mark it out here and also on the waist point. Now remember that we took in 3 inches here. So that 3 inches that we took in on at the under bust and also at the waist line, we are also going to bring that 3 inches back to this other part here. So that once we sew this in, this other part that we took out is going to come back to the normal position. Now go ahead and connect those lines together. So from this point here, on the line that we just drew, you're going to be coming out here by 1.5 inches seam allowance. So that's what I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be adding that seam allowance for both this point here and also down to my waist line. This is also saving as an ease, okay? The half inch I'm putting inside also saving as an ease because we are not adding any half inch inward to what the other curves that have been made inside. So go ahead and then rule a line and then connect them together. Next, come over to the top part here and also add half inch on top of this. So this is what we're going to be using when we are adding both the lining and the main fabric together. That's what you're going to be using to fold it, okay, to bend it so that it can come out looking neat on top. Then come over to the down part here and also add half inch to that area. Now you're going to come over to the armhole here so we can create the armhole for the back. So from that point now you're going to be drawing down a curve back to the 1.5 inches that we drew. So now it's time for us to create the back. So for the back now, I've gone ahead to transfer the chest line, the bust points, and also the waistline on this. And I've also transferred this other line that we drew on the chest, that's in the new chest line, down to the back part, okay? So that's what we are going to be working with. Now, what we're going to do next is this. We are still going to mark out our nipple to nipple measurement, which is the 4 inches that we had at the back. So from the center of the back, we are going to be marking that in here. So also notice that we did not add a zipper allowance to this. So that was a mistake from my own end. So you can always add a 1.5 inch zipper allowance as in at the center front before you start your measurement. But at the end, you are still going to be adding that to the fabric. So after drawing that line out, what you're going to do now is to go ahead and then connect the lines together. Then you're going to come down to the waistline here. Now on the waistline, you're going to be marking in 1 inch inwards on the waistline, 1 inch inwards on both sides of the line. Then we are going to use our ruler to connect that line back to the top parts of this paper. Just so that we can have a very nice cinch to the waistline and a very nice shape to this, we are going to be adding our underbust measurements down to the back here. So for me, it is 13 inches. So I'm using from my bust point, which is from my shoulder to bust, which is 10. Then from that 10 inches now, I'm going to be marking 13 inches down, which is the under bust point there. Then that's what I'm going to be using to draw the line. And then we are going to be adding our horizontal measurements to this. So I've gone ahead to mark out my horizontal measurements, and I've also gone ahead to mark it out here. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to come over to this dot point here. And then you're going to check what we have here is 2 inches. Remember, it was 1 inch. So now you're going to bring it out here. We will mark it down here. Now you're going to come over to our underbust. And on our underbust here, we are having 1.5 inches here. So I'm going to return the 1.5 inches at this area. Now, once you come over here to my bust point here, I'm going to be having 1 inch. So with that 1 inch now, that's what I'm going to be returning out to this area. And from there, I'm going to be adding 1 inch seam allowance around this from my bust to my waistline. So the next thing to do is to go ahead and then cut it out. So once that is done, it's time for us to move over to the skirt area. So for the measurement, you're going to be starting from this point now. So now this point now represents my waistline, which is 16 inches from my shoulder down to that point. So I'm going to be placing the 16 inches there. Now from my waist point down to my hip point is 25 inches. As in from my shoulder to my hip is 25 inches. So that's what I'm marking out there, all right? So after that, I'm going to be marking from my waistline there down to where the length of the skirt is going to stop. So for me, it is 22 inches. So now it's time for us to insert our horizontal measurements. So coming down to the waistline, I'm going to be dividing my waistline by 4, and also the hip, also the measuring by 4. So dividing that by 4, I'm going to be marking that out here. Now coming over to my hip line, I'm also going to be dividing my hip measurements by 4. Then that's what I'm going to mark out here. So remember that this is the front. So I want to be applying something I learned from a video recently, which is the hip allocation. So right now I'm going to be adding the same thing I had on my hip line down to my to the length of the skirt. Now coming to the hip line now, we are going to be subtracting 1 inch. So I think I will link in a video of that girl on the description box, because I really learned something from her video. So thank you to you if you're seeing this video. So right now, this will now turn to our 1 inch seam allowance. So I'm also going to come down here, and then we are going to subtract 1 inch here at this point. Then the original mark that we drew there will now turn to our seam allowance. Then we're going to come over to the waist point here, and then we are going to add 1 inch seam allowance to this area. So that is it for the front. The next thing we are going to do is to go ahead and then connect those lines together. So at the center front here, we are going to be coming down by 1 inch. This is to help take away that excess that comes off in front. So you're going to be connecting that 1 inch line back to the original waist points at this other area. The next thing to do is to go ahead and then cut it out. So now it's time for us to cut out the back. So guys, please pay attention here because it's very important. So before we go ahead to mark this line, we're going to be measuring out 2.5 inches seam allowance. So that's what we just marked out, and that is the side we are going to be using to insert the zip. Now you're going to be bringing in the front like this, and you're going to place it on the line that we just drew. Then go ahead to transfer your hip line, your waistline, and also the length of the skirt at both places, okay, both at the front and also behind, so it will be easy for you to use your ruler and just connect them together. So we are going to come over to our waistline here, and then we are going to divide that our waist measurement by 4, and then we are going to mark it out plus 1 inch for a seam allowance. Now you're also going to come down to our hip measurement, and we'll also do the same thing, plus 1 inch seam allowance. Now when you come down to the length of the skirt, you're going to be dividing the hip measurement into 4, and then you're going to mark that out there. Then you're going to subtract 1 inch. So the original one that you already marked is going to now serve as the seam allowance. The next thing for us to do is for us to go ahead and then connect these lines together. So for now, this is what you're going to do. So pay attention. So from this point, this hip point here, you're going to come out with 1 inch. Now come over to the waistline also, and also mark 1 inch outwards. Now go ahead and then connect these 2 dots together. Now you are going to come back here to the waistline, and then you're going to to the hip line, and then you're going to mark again 1 inch outwards. Now this 1 inch that you just marked, you're going to connect that 1 inch back to this other line that we just drew on the waistline. So just connect that back. Now you're going to come down again to the hip line, and then you're going to, from that point, measure 6 inches down. Now this 6 inches down that you're going to measure now, you're going to connect this dot right here down to that 6 inches point that we just marked. So this now is going to really serve as the hip allocation, where your butt is really going to sit in comfortably, all right, while every other part is going to come in shaped. Now bring your tape down to the length line, and then you're going to also mark out 1 inch here. Then you're going to go ahead to connect the other line that was already hanging there down to that 1-inch line. So at this point, I've gone ahead to cut out the pattern on the main fabric. So for the fabric I'm going to be using, I am going to be using 3 yards of Ankara fabric to create this whole style. So just go ahead and then cut yours out. And also don't forget to add a little bit of seam allowances to this point. Alright. Then on my next video is where we are going to be putting all these pieces together, and also the sleeve is going to be indicated there. So just definitely share this video, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you on that video. Bye guys.